Behind every meaningful initiative, there are people who choose to give, not for recognition, but for impact. Hello everyone, this is Pranali Kaude from ProEd, and welcome to the next episode of Generous Heart That Built Us, a series where we celebrate those who have quietly shaped the journey of ProEd. Today, we are honored to have our guest, Sri Saravana Dharamajan, who is a Senior Technical Director at Bounteous India and is also an advisor to ProEd. His guidance has significantly shaped our journey. He first connected with ProEd through the Tata Pro Engage program, an initiative where professionals contribute their expertise to strengthen non-profits and bridge real-world skill gaps. But what makes his journey truly special is this. Even after his formal association and even after moving on from TCS, he chose to stay, support and guide us. And not just that, he introduced practices like GitHub, which helped students approach real-world work. So, we are truly thankful to have you here.
My pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to give back to society in one other episode here.
Now, let's begin with this. As we saw your journey from how you connected with us through the Tata Pro Engage program and how you stayed with us. Looking back at those initial days, what motivated you to carry this journey forward?
The primary motivation is like the knowledge, whatever that everybody gains, it is not going to be of use if you are just keeping it for yourself. If it is going to be shared, it is going to be really, really helpful for the community. So, ever since I joined TCS or my formative career, I haven't had a platform that was consistent enough to give back. There have been pockets of activities where we call it as corporate social responsibility. So you do initiatives, you go to schools, but those are like not a kind of recurring ones and not something sustainable. So when I looked into Show ProEd about like say 3 years before, so this was completely online and it was having flexibility of timing. So I believe that with my decades of experience, then there's a lot I can give back, and it could be done by looking at this platform. So I could look at hundreds and thousands of students, and I can share my knowledge, whatever that I've acquired through the industry. So that is the primary motivation for me to get onto this platform and sustain it so far.
Thank you, sir. We are really grateful to have you here with us today. And we also saw that your key contribution was introducing the GitHub as a version control for students to submit their projects, and which really helped them align the students to work with industry practices. Building on that, what other tools would you suggest we adopt which will increase students' industry relevance?
Yeah, so there are multiple things, some of which we are already doing it in Show ProEd. First, I would say number one, in terms of when you look at software industry, right? There are maturity models, which means starting from in age old days, they call it as SCI, CMM level 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 5. So keeping software in a safe and in terms of version controlled manner is one of the foundational things that need to be there, and it's a part of all the professional application development. So that was the first thing I had to make sure in terms of all the students get used to it and not really write code, just not really keep it in a file and just save it in a zip file. Not really. The professional way to do source code management is to have in terms of using GitHub. That was the primary tool. The second thing I would say with respect to the other tools that would help you through, right? With respect to the modern day world, you have a lot of productivity improvement tools, right? So not necessarily AI, but with respect to the ecosystem of either Google or Microsoft, where you have a very well structured way to look at planning your day. So it could be in terms of say a calendar, and in terms of keeping a list of to-do, keeping a list of minders, and giving a very good plan, right? That will help you to make sure you look forward for a day, and then say you can plan it ahead of time. So some of those practices are part of bread and butter and basic things in the corporate world. So you follow a calendar, and if you wanted to make sure that you have some action items, you go and put them into a to-do or into any of the tools. So if it is integrated with your work environment, integrated with your day-to-day, say, application that you use, that's going to make sure you don't miss out on anything. So the one of
Okay.
the primary things where in a corporate world, you don't want to be reminded by somebody, because that's not part of
Mhm.
what somebody else need to do. If you can be organized, if you can just make sure you deliver on what is being expected of to you, that is one great asset that you can carry forward. So some of these tools with respect to Office, Microsoft Office, keeping them to do, doing a calendar, maybe something like a keep some notes and do some structured way, so that like you are able to make sure what you plan you are able to achieve. Those are some of the basic tools I would suggest. And the modern day world, everybody knows about how you use AI tools, Gemini and
Mhm.
ChatGPT, not for a kind of completely learning or asking answers, but more about enriching your thought process. So that's one way I can say the
Okay.
modern day tools will also help through.
Okay. We will surely try to implement the suggestions as to-do lists and productivity tools. Now, the next thing is you have been associated with us with Shaw ProEd for the last 2 to 3 years, and I've closely witnessed our journey. From your perspective, how has organization evolved from what it was, and where do you think it will head in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So I think like we have grown leaps and bounds, definitely. So when I joined in, it was like only with Radha ma'am and a few other volunteers. And over the period of years, I see a lot more people coming from different organizations, a lot more people bringing in different perspectives. And we have some very senior advisors who've been playing leadership roles in large organizations. So all of that wisdom has actually shaped the Sure ProEd drastically, right? So we were like having a bunch of engineers who were like doing some part-time work for getting our website, and starting to look for, say, what is the best way to optimize on cost, and what is the best way to go and release anything on the website. But now with so much of people supporting, our ways of working has tremendously improved. So a lot of manual work for issuing certification, those have been like, automated, and now we
Right.
have a lot more better collaboration tools. And I see there is like the true wisdom that has been brought in from various senior leadership teams has been reflecting it. So I see like our ways of working has tremendously changed. That is something I can really vouch for, say 2 3 years back versus where we stand today. We go through there it is like we don't want to look back, right? We wanted to make
Hmm.
sure we keep growing in this space, and we reach out to a lot more of the student community, though we were focused only on the rural side and those who couldn't afford. But now our scale, our family is large, so I'm sure like we as we go through the years, there is a lot more that we will achieve. I'm 100% confident about it.
Sure, sir. And we also hope that short trust community increases day by day.
Absolutely.
Now, in this fast paced environment, how do we survive in this industry for a longer duration, where AI is rapidly transforming roles and even redefining how value is created?
Absolutely. One of the common things that everybody fears is that how AI will replace people, or
Hmm.
maybe the jobs will be maybe thrown away. AI will take over everything, right? So, I mean, a lot of being people are like talking about it, and there are different perspectives coming in terms of where AI will disrupt, where AI will just about complement, so on and so forth. But being in the industry for more than 2 decades, what I have observed is like a technology that comes in. So I've seen about the growth since I started with my career. The year 2K, Y2K problem was just about finishing off, right? But when you looked at then you started coming up with a dot com bubble, and the dot com bubble was like going ahead all over the place. Then in terms of your the cloud evolved, and then mobile
Hmm.
being a common thing. So the technology keeps changing, constantly for good. I mean, that is the evolution. But how do you create value, or how do you sustain a career that is without having to be being thrown away from the technology? Is like what do you bring to the table and what is the value that you create to your role? That value creation is something, a mindset change, and in terms of bringing that to your work day to day. How can I do things differently so that like I can achieve more? And how can I be sort of doing things that will help others, right? And in terms
Okay.
of how do you radically change the way things are? So one of the things I at least observe is that you have the bunch of people who are like thinkers, who are doers. So most of the people where everybody has the ability to do both, but
Hmm.
there is not always the equal balance. So the moment
Right.
you start thinking, what am I, my role is expecting to do? And am I
Right.
first doing all those activities? Beyond which, what I can give back to this role? How can I improve the process? How can I continuously improve? How can I do continuous learning and then implement it? And then make sure that you have a thinker hat where you think differently and then now you start doing them, implementing it. That is where you create value, and the value that you create, it has to exponentially grow. So when you look at your role as a fresher, you would
Right.
not have something like say on a day one, but it is nobody stopping you to go ahead and contribute. So every part of your journey in your career, you start having, what are the value that I can bring, how can I continuously improve it, focus on that, and then use AI and others as a tools and technology as a tool, and that will help you to really not just sustain, you can thrive and you can outshine the entire community. That's the way I see sustainable growth, and in terms of a sustainable career where you constantly focus on value creation. These are some of the core values organization put in their vision values, but
Right.
not everybody assimilates them and follows through. The moment you start doing them on day one, you have a real a great career ahead. That's the way
Okay.
I look at how we can sustain a career with technology.
That was really a great advice, and we would all try to follow this advice. Now, before we wrap up this session, we'd love to do a quick rapid fire round. Short answers.
Mhm.
So, the one word in your mind that describes Shaw ProEd to you.
Charity,
One quality you admire most in Shaw ProEd students.
enthusiasm,
Okay. One habit that every student should build early in their career.
value creation.
Okay. One mistake you think students should avoid while learning or preparing for jobs.
They should have a growth mindset. Growth
Hmm.
mindset is the key.
That is important. And thank you for joining us on Generous Hearts That Built Us and sharing your time, your insights, and more importantly, your continued support to ShopRoad. We are grateful to have you here. And until next time, learn, lead, and lift others. Please like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel.